Oh, that's not how the screen should look. What a great start. There we go. Hello, you. My name's Jonti.
And I'm Brandon, also known as B Squared, and this is This Week in Ink.
Each week we'll be wading into the Inklands to bring you the news and the views on all things Lorcana.
Coming up, we have our regular segments, Main Street Market Watch, and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be discussing the latest topics and taking opinions from the live chat.
Hello, live chat. Yes, we have some really fun stuff to talk about this week. There were quite a few tournaments over this past weekend, some of them at SC Philly. Yeah, some big ones. There's a very big one in France, all into the Inklands new set stuff. The set championship deadline for applications for those for your stores is coming up. So we have a little bit to talk about there. Deck prices, card prices are a little bit expensive, more than they have been previously. And we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about.
I will say, despite that dodgy intro there, I just hadn't got the screen figured out properly. We've actually done quite a bit of prep this episode. We have lots of notes. And I, as a forewarning for how I think the episode's going to go, I'm just going to pour myself a beer. Because I feel, I feel like it's the sort of show that might need one.
Apologies to chat if this episode is not the brightest episode.
A lot of you have just come from the Illuminateer stream, I guess, which is all sunshines and rainbows. And now, me and Brandon are here to tell you what's really going on.
Cheers. No, the Illuminateers are awesome. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I see you, Trey, Steven, Lauren, Kana, Googly, James, Lee, Esvion, lots of familiar faces. Thank you guys for stopping by. We appreciate all of you. Everyone, be sure to like the episode before we ruin everybody's night.
Hey, we're not ruining people's night.
True, I guess.
All right. So, lots to talk about. We're just going to dive in. The first topic tonight is going to be the set championship. News of an announcement that the announcements is there's news and it's a thing. So we were told was this the thing that was the last day of February? These all sort of blend into one a little bit at the minute. This is the last day of February. They announced that it was coming and you could do it from between the 19th and the 28th, and you had to apply, but on the 8th you could start applying, right? If you were a hobby store that was already set up as a hobby store before a certain date. There was like multiple different dates that you had to hit. You had to be a hobby store already from before a certain date, and if you were, you can apply by the 8th, and then you'll find out by the 17th, and then you actually run it in April. Is it
April
18th until the?
Oh man, I don't know,
28th or something like that, right? It's like 2 weekends basically. It's like 2 weekends you can run it.
Let's see. Yeah, I think it's like the 19th to the 28th or something around there. So
I went and applied. I'll say this first of all, as a store, I sat down on the 8th. I sort of blocked out an hour of my day. I was like, right, this is going to be the applying for Lorcana thing hour. So I sat down and I went onto Melee and I signed in, and there was a button that said apply for the store champs, and I clicked the button and it said thank you for applying. I was like, oh
great.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Easy. Cool.
Yeah. So so we're applied. I don't really understand why that's a thing. If they didn't want information from me, why not just let it go to every OP store, or at least every OP store that's hit a certain parameter on melee for them. But still, they needed you to sort of initiate the process. So I clicked apply, and now it says wait. And then since then we've got this document that is sort of, it looks like a digital version of the printout that will come with the kit, much like the digital version of the OP kits usually come out a little before the time this one has come out. So do you want to start taking us through this, Brandon? I've got it.
Yeah. So just a quick reminder to everybody, just in case you missed the date, the deadline for signing up for this for your store is March 17th. If you haven't contacted your LGSs or they haven't told you they've done it, highly recommend you guys do that so that they get signed up and can hopefully receive a kit. But we'll go over some of the basic set championship stuff that we already know, just in case there's anybody here that doesn't know. The kit contains 4 Stitch promo cards that you can see on screen now. Those will go to the top 4 players in the tournament. The tournament will be a core constructed tournament, and based on number of players will depend on whether you go into a top cut. But minimum, there will be 3 Swiss rounds, 3 games, 50 minutes each. 50 minutes for the round, 3 games, best of 3. So those 4 go to top 4. The top 2 each get a playmat, with the champion getting a playmat that says champion on it, and the second place just getting a regular playmat. So that's, as far as I know, all that really comes in the actual kit itself.
And I think until this came out, we didn't know that the playmats would be different. I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So now we actually see that one actually says champion and one is the runner up. So. Just to make sure we've really covered all bases, core constructed is just the regular version of the game. That means you are playing a 60 card plus deck, using up to play sets of 4 of each card, and currently anything from any set is viable. There's no sort of restricted or ban list or anything like that. So a few people have asked, core constructed. That's all that means. Just the game, basically. Just outside anything that isn't a limited format, where you are building a deck at the event out of a number of packs. If you're building the deck at home and bringing it with you, that's just what core constructed means. There was a rumor going around that it was only using set 3 cards. It was a silly rumor.
That's kind of why I wanted to just go over it to just clear that. This is not a tournament of only Into the Inklands cards. It is all of the legal cards that can be played.
If it was...
I would not like it.
No, I wouldn't either. But if it was, what would you play?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Steel, probably.
Ruby Steel Locations is what I would play. Yeah, because I think that's the only deck I can think of that is like a good chunk of it is actually from set 3.
Yeah. So probably that. I don't know. One of the things that we learned that I was interested in knowing, because I figured these wouldn't just go out to everybody, because I know Jonti has lots of success at his store, likely wouldn't have any trouble getting his kit. My local struggles a lot of times, or the one closest to me, a lot of times hardly anybody shows up. Sometimes there's been multiple times that I've only shown up and it's just been me. I figured we probably wouldn't be a kit, or we wouldn't get a kit. But for the set championships, 8 players must be present with a tournament legal deck and make a good faith effort to play in one round in order for the tournament to even be run. If 8 people don't show up, the event has to be canceled. And it says that the LGS or the event organizer has to return the promo kit to their local Ravensburger office, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know how standard or not standard that is in the industry.
It depends on the game, honestly. Most Magic, they just let you keep it. So Magic has a thing in place where they have there's like a statute of limitation that you have to keep promos for. So say they send out promos for a certain event, and they send you 16 promos and you use 7 of them. The other 11, you can't do anything else with them until a certain date, usually like a period after that event. And at that point, they go into your sort of bulk promo tub, and you can just start using them for other things. So that's how Magic does it. A lot of Bandai will ask you to destroy anything you don't give out or use. There have been others that say send it back. What I will say is the wording of this is a little weird for me. Like, return the package to your local Ravensburger office suggests that you're going to be walking down into like, downtown. It just means, like, if you're in Canada, you're going to send it back to the North American office, basically, is what it means. Like, you know, local is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Yeah, I wondered what that meant, because I'm only aware of the Ravensburger office in Seattle.
Yes, that is your local Ravensburger office, as opposed to the Ravensburger office in Berlin or wherever it is, basically.
I thought that was really interesting, because I wonder how many places will get a set championship kit and they have 5 regular people that show up to League, and whether or not they're going to return it, or whether or not they're going to like find some people to put emails into Melee and like run an 8-person tournament, just so that like the people that are playing get a chance at the promo, even if they're not supposed to do that, and send the kit back.
The only sort of frame of reference I've got for this is recently the Star Wars miniature games have been having a world's like we've been able to, as a store, we've been able to hold events where the prize is a ticket to the Worlds tournament, or Nationals even, maybe, I forget. But you need 16 people for it to fire properly. And we will, sometimes for X-Wing maybe get 14, 13, 14. And we struggle a little bit even with that ticket, because, a lot of the people who play the game, I mean, I'm kind of in this boat as well. I really love playing it. I enjoy playing competitively. I ain't traveling to France to play in the Worlds, whether I win this tournament in my local store or not, right? So it isn't necessarily a big draw for a lot of players. So we sometimes struggle to get to it, and we always kind of say, oh, listen, we've got 14. I think numbers wise, a lot of places have struggled because Star Wars, Asmodee, the company that built the game, have put a thing out saying, if you get close, give us a shout and we'll just clear it and we'll tell you to give it out, because I'm assuming a lot of stores have been able to hit that sort of double figures, but not quite up to 16. I don't think any store is going to struggle to get, if they're allowed to run it, I don't think they're going to struggle to get 8, because either they're looking at their Melee numbers and knowing they're going to hit it, or I'll be honest with you, your store gets 5 out, you don't think 3 people are going to travel out for their chance to win one? God, if I knew a store and only got 8 people turning up and I'd got to hit top half,
Yeah, I don't know. It was just, I thought it was interesting to ask stores to return the kit after having it, especially knowing probably how expensive these things are going to be. How many of them are going to be honest about it and return it if they need to.
So the two thoughts there are basically, okay, you get this kit, your event doesn't fire. These Stitch Rockstars, I mean, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if they're $1,000 as a card, honestly. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised at all.
I'd be a little surprised if they were that much.
Really? Even looking at like Elsa Enchanted from set 1 sitting at like 800, 900.
I think so, because the other Stitch isn't like this expensive.
It could be any character in the world on this card. For me, it's purely the difficulty in obtaining it is what's going to create value, personally.
The only reason that I say I think I would be surprised by 1,000 is because the D23 cards just seem like one of those cards. All of them sit, give or take, around $1,000, and I have to imagine there's more of these that are going to go out than there were D23 cards.
That's fair, that's fair, because we could have a rough guess at how many D23 cards there are, right? Because we had some information about how many sets went out there, so that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, $1,000 Canadian.
Okay, that's probably the closer,
maybe like $500, $600, $700, something like that. Okay, let's be let's say $500 for the sake of easy math. These cards are selling for $500. Your event doesn't fire as a store. Is the $2,000 worth cutting a relationship with Ravensburger, knowing how sort of difficult we've had to jump through hoops to get product in the first place?
Not if you get caught, no.
but the way you get caught is that this information has to go through Melee.
No, I know, but I don't think it would be hard to come up with some emails to like throw into a Melee thing.
That's the next. So there's the next points. Then is yes. So okay, the event doesn't fire. Does Ravensburger have any evidence that it doesn't fire other than, like you say, Joe Bloggs and and John Hancock are all signing into Lorcana tournaments everywhere? So
yeah.
Mm.
But yeah.
And also, are they going to be able to monitor it well enough that even if they can show that a store hasn't run the event, do they care? Are they going to be looking this closely? Are they going to be micromanaging it to that level, or is this little bit here about returning if it doesn't run more of just a blanket statement that probably doesn't matter? So I'll be very surprised if they're assuming they're looking at stores that are applying for this and it isn't just going to OP stores. I can only assume it's because they're looking at Melee figures or maybe even they're doing deeper dives and they're looking at the stores on Facebook or whatever, but they're obviously doing more than just, if you're an OP store, you're getting this. So assuming that it is going to be a little bit more selective, I'd be very surprised if they choose a store that isn't easily going to be able to get 8 people.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the selection process. I doubt we ever really know, but I have seen Ravensburger employees when they see people complaining about LGS, charging a lot for product or people having a really bad time or whatever. They always send people to the contact page on the official website to have people submit a ticket. So I'm interested if they're keeping books on that kind of thing and potentially, I don't know, having a naughty or nice list for LGSs, I guess. It would be interesting. But one of the other interesting things that I say interesting, I saw this coming. I don't know that everyone else did, just based on some of the responses that I've seen. But lower down in the PDF, it says that they strongly encourage additional pricing, but specifically that they do not allow cash pricing. Which I saw coming from a long time. I remember there was an interview with Ryan Miller, like very, very early on, before the game was even out, where he mentioned something along the lines of like, they're not really interested in running cash tournaments because they don't really love the type of people that like cultivates as a community and like the people that brings into a game where you have just massive cash, larger tournaments. And although this isn't quite a larger tournament, being a set championship just for a store, I'm not surprised at all that there aren't any cash. There's no cash prizing. But I think it would be, I hope a lot of LGSs decide to, give out packs for top 8 or top 16, or, everybody gets a pack or store credit or something, because I do think top 4 is a bit top heavy for a tournament just in general.
Especially when you start getting like double figures of attendees. I think you're right. Although interesting, you made a point there that I would love some clarification on. Whilst I completely agree that cash pricing shouldn't be allowed, and I'm more than happy to do that, does that include store credit?
Yeah, don't know.
I would like clarification on that. Not necessarily that I particularly want to offer store credit, but it would be nice to know. So the way we run our constructed tournaments at the moment is usually we've got like a first place will get a trove, second place get a gift set, but then also a box is kind of split between the top 8 as well. So first place might be like a trove and 4 packs, second place is like a gift set and 4 packs, and then third and fourth is 6 each, and 5 and 6 is 4 each, and 7 and 8 is 2 each. Or so I don't know. It's something like that basically is our pricing. So what we would like to do is continue to do that with this additional top 4 in place as well. I don't know yet whether or not that regular top 8 pricing actually comes down and becomes like top 12 pricing, with these stitches and play mats being enough for top 4 on their own. Just to kind of spread the pricing out a little bit. I don't know. But what we do with that is it's $15 a head. And that's worked out on 16 people. So if 16 people come in and pay $15 a head, that pays for that pricing. It pays for the trove, the gift set, and a box of products. Now, if we then go over 16, we just start pricing out as store credits additionally. So because we never make money on tournaments. For us, the way we make money is we make the profit off the products that is being used as a prize. And then obviously we sell pop and chips, and people are in the store and they get memberships and buy sleeves and all that. So as far as like the money coming in always goes completely back out as prizing for all of our events. That's not just a Lorcana thing, that's a blanket rule for us. So obviously the more money we take, the more goes back out as prizing. So I would like some clarification on whether or not store credits is allowed, because if we get 32 people, I basically start giving $20 back in store credits until I run out of spaces. So I would like some information on that. Rochelle could be here, but he's silent because this isn't the right time to discuss it. Yes, absolutely. We know that she's a fan of the show. I say fan. She probably does her professional diligence.
She does her job.
I'm interested to know where you're thinking of pitching the entry fee, Jonti, including the extra support. Yeah, that's fair. So like I say, normally we do it at $15, and that's for that pricing. I think it would be fair to say that that pricing plus this is worth $25, and that, again, that's Canadian. I think somewhere around 20 US is probably acceptable for this.
Yeah,
but honestly, like a lot of places do $35 for a 1K. And this pricing is probably on the secondhand market worth a lot more than a 1K. So I don't know really.
This was mentioned in the Illuminateer stream, and they landed on about $20. I'm a more competitive minded player, whether or not I actually like fall into somebody that can live up to that. But like I'd pay $35 to enter a tournament for this. I want these stitches really bad, and so like I'm going to do it. But that's also why I think spreading out pricing is really important too. I'm a big fan of like everybody walks away with a pack regardless of how good or bad you do, and part of that's just like cushioned into the price that you pay to get in. And then like price, obviously the pricing gets higher as you place higher, but I would be totally fine with just getting the Stitch promo and or playmat being in the top 4, nothing else, and then packs or whatever go to the rest.
Yeah, because it's just for me personally as a fan of the game, it's almost priceless, really. The Stitch promo, you know, like there almost isn't a number that I can put on it. Steven says, does that mean that $5 would go to the store for the OP kit? So originally I would say no, and I would say the pricing goes back out again. But we're going to come on to another part of this document in a moment that I think may explain why I'm thinking the event needs to cost a little bit more money. I don't think stores should be pricing out this stuff that they got for free based on the secondary market. It's so you're right, but it's very difficult, and especially for like a store like us that's always sold all of this stuff at MSRP and been very happy to do so, just over MSRP actually. To actually completely be honest, we did our regular markup, which actually put it about 30 cents over a pack, but still. We've sold it all at a good price. To see all of the other places sell boxes for like $400, but we've constantly sort of, kept it as it is to build that community. At some point, we're sitting there thinking, well, is it about time we try to make a little bit of money on all of this? And if this is going to be getting people into the store, especially if it's going to be bringing outsiders in who are just trying to win it, then why not make a bit of money out of them? We're not really gaining anything else, right? So it's a really difficult line to come up with. With the Magic ones. So Magic have started doing store championships every month for every set for their new set, and they provide a full art foil, and then 8 foils for top 8, and then another card for participation. So that comes, and they're free of charge. And then if you're a WPN premium store, which we are, you also get that exact same pricing again, but it actually states on it, winner, the game chamber. Top 8, the Game Chamber, like printed onto the card
Oh,
is our
okay.
store name. It's so neat, like a really
That's
cool
really
thing.
cool. Yeah.
But because it costs us nothing, we charge $5 to come and play in that, basically. Just a little bit to cover the rent, to cover the member of staff that's running it, basically. We're still a business, we have to make some money. We charge $5 a head for that. But we maybe get 7 people for this. Whereas I think there's a good chance of this pulling in as many people as we have seats. So it's a really tough decision. Like, part of you thinks that, yes, this hasn't cost us anything and we should just run it as cheap as we can. But then part of me thinks, well, do you know what? No, because this is going to require staff for the day, and it's going to require... and there's the general running costs of the building, having people in it for the day, so that's something you just have to bear in mind as well. It isn't as simple as, this pack of sleeves cost me $5, I sell it for $8, I make $3. There's a lot of other costs every day, and the events like this are a way to kind of offset those costs, especially if you're selling product at as cheap as you can. So it's tricky. It's really tricky.
That's why I'm surprised when I hear that stores like take all of the money that they get for a tournament and put it directly back in pricing. Because I'm somebody that's like, I like to support my LGS where I can. I'll buy products slightly above MSRP, locally, just to help support them a little. Because you guys have to keep your lights on. You have to make some money, and tournaments where you're getting a kit to run the tournament for free sounds like a great way to cover some of those costs when tickets are $5, $10, $15 per person, and you get 16 people there. That starts to add up, and I'm sure that's helpful. But like you said, there are other costs to running a tournament, which I think can move us into this next part of the sheet, specifically talking about judges. For the set championship, it requires a judge for the event. That judge cannot play in the event.
Sorry, I'm laughing at myself because I have so many thoughts about these 3 lines of writing. It's ridiculous.
Requires a judge for the event. They prefer that your judge is a certified judge. I don't know what a certified judge is, but that's what they prefer. They mentioned that they want you to provide a person experienced in judging trading card game events, which is fair. I'm sure there's plenty of other people around that, and who is playing Disney Lorcana trading card game, and I assume well versed in some of the rules. But there is no official judge program. There is no comprehensive rules that judges can look to at least not yet, to make any calls if anything happens during the set championship. And if I understand correctly, because this is a little bit outside of my sphere, typically with these things, judge promos or something, judge playmats, come with these kits that you can give the judge or judges to help run the event, since they can't play in the event, sort of as compensation for spending their day helping the store, not having the opportunity to win the other promos or anything like that. And there are none of those in this kit. There's no judge promo or playmat or anything. So either the stores have to find another way to compensate the judge, or judges have to volunteer. Lots of stuff here, but Jonti, I'll let you talk on this a little bit.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, we can break it down a little bit. A judge is required for this event. Sure, that's fine. This is the first sort of official competitive event that has been ran in stores. Perfectly acceptable to need a judge. That person cannot play in the tournament. Again, perfectly acceptable. I have no problems with that at all. Stores must provide a person experienced in judging trading card game events and playing Disney Lorcana trading card games. So it doesn't have to be somebody who's ever judged Lorcana before. This says that they have to judge games and that they can play Lorcana. And then a certified judge is preferred but not required. Yeah, is certified from another game? Does that mean?
I don't know.
Or does that mean that, like, in a couple of days, a judge certifications drop in that takes judges a week or two to do? or does it mean, or is it a play, or are they putting this in place because it's, this text will be used in every one of these, and they're just sort of templating it out based, by the next set there will be a certification in progress. But asking somebody to judge a game at a competitive level, and a fairly decent competitive level. This is a store championship. This is, like I said, the prizes on hold here are going to be worth a good few $100. Asking somebody to judge without the safety net of a comprehensive rule set to fall back on is insane. I personally have no problem doing it. I have judged card games for years. I've TO'd card games for years, and miniature games as well. I have no problem being, sort of on the pedestal, in the spotlight, whatever you want to call it, and having to make that sort of moment-to-moment call. But there are a lot of judges who probably aren't comfortable doing that without that safety net, basically. So asking them to do it is really quite. Is a really strange way of doing it, and feels very lackadaisical of them, to be honest with you. It seems like such an afterthought, and such we better mention judges, I suppose. Like I think this is a real miss on Ravensburger's part, to be honest with you, because it just seems very half-assed. As a judge, the way when I judge an event, the main thing I have to do is return play to a acceptable position as quickly and as easily and with as less changes as possible. That's basically what your job is as a judge, is to rectify any issues and return play as simply as possible. So for the most part, it is a lot of common sense. It is mostly just sort of listening to both sides of the story. If there is no clear wrong player, you just kind of have to wipe the slate, and then putting, just sort of saying, right, okay, well, we're just going to take this back to a state where both of you aren't at a disadvantage or an advantage, and we move forward with play. Basically, that's all you can do. So a lot of it is just common sense, really. Oh, he saw a card he wasn't meant to. Okay, well, that just probably gets shuffled into your deck, and you redraw or whatever. It's all pretty standard stuff. And there is a small document available to TOs for Lorcana, with some sort of common practices and a basic outline of a warning system. So there is there are penalty guidelines. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That is out there, but they are very light. I mean, really sort of very sort of bare bones. We're going to talk about another game in a moment that has just come out, and it has a 55-page comprehensive rule document available right now.
Yeah,
that I printed off today, actually, and started
before
it
came out.
Yeah, so this is insane. They don't cover nearly enough. You're right, they don't. But it's something at least that you can go to and reference. So I am comfortable in somebody who is comfortable taking on that role and relatively knowledgeable on the game to play this role at this event. So I don't get a stitch.
Yeah,
because
you don't get to play
because I don't take my day off. I don't play in the event, which is I absolutely would have done. Now that's fine. I work at a store. Sometimes you take these you take these hits. But as you said, a lot of these events, they will be some sort of compensation for the judges. Now, in my case, it's not so bad because I'm a paid employee of the store, so I'll get paid for being there for the day. So, my compensation is my wage. But a lot of the time, you'll bring, judges. The store itself won't have somebody who's able or willing to take that role of a judge, and very often the judge prizing or promotion will be there as a way of taking the edge off for them. Some games even provide product purely for a judge. The Magic used to, they don't do this anymore, but they would give you a box of product and be like, this is the box you give the judge, and they would get a box of product for running the event. A lot of the time it'll be, like you say, some sort of judge promo. So the fact that they are requiring a judge, but giving you absolutely no support otherwise for the fact that they need a judge is awful. Honestly, I really think it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a big miss by Ravensburger, to be honest with you. You say you're comfortable having somebody like yourself run the game who like knows basically how the game runs, and like personally I'm not. Like I'll be honest. I I've run into scenarios before playing in like Winnabox tournaments locally where, there's 13 people that show up, maybe 16. There's not a lot of them. Half the people might be playing with starter decks, and the store kind of does Lorcana as a secondary thing. And like somebody runs into an issue in a game, or like I run into an issue in my game where my opponent doesn't properly know how to play, and I have to call a judge, and it's usually the store owner or store manager, and they show up and they're like, and they know me and like doing the YouTube thing and that, so they know that I know how things are supposed to run, and they ask me like, hey, how's this supposed to work? And it's like, I'm not supposed to tell you how this game that I'm playing like plays out, and not only that, but like as somebody who lives, eats, breathes, and sleeps this game, like I don't know how everything in this game properly works. I'm positive Googly in the chat could ask me a game state question that would trip me up. Like there's just some things in the game that I don't know how everything works correctly. And I'm not saying those are going to come up super often, but like when you're talking about
they're fringe cases, right? They're edge cases. Yeah, for the most part, you've got a pretty good idea of how these weird things will allocate.
Yeah,
and usually the interesting fringe ones usually come up and do the rounds. Timothy there says Mary singing a whole new world when there's something that could be attacked must attack. That's the challenge. That's not an issue. Reckless only checks at the end of the turn whether or not it has attacked and if it's still able to. So there you go. That's a classic judge call. No problem there at all.
My issue is like I would, for pricing that is so, like you said, almost invaluable for like a Disney fan or Lorcana fan, regardless of whatever price they end up being on the secondary market. I would really, really hate for somebody to be stuck in a situation where like it's a store that's it's maybe in a rural area. There's not a ton of people. The store's not super invested in the game, but they're invested enough that people show up and they sell product and don't know the ins and outs of the game. And like somebody loses advantage or loses their ability to win one of these because there's not a comprehensive rule document that somebody can open and say, this is exactly how this works. It's a little bit sloppy to me that like the majority of the rulings that we know about come from a Discord channel that
Steve Warner's replied on Twitter. Like it is a little rough really that you're gonna be like, hold on a minute, Steve mentioned this on Twitter months ago. Give me a sec, I'll find it for you.
Let me search Discord for this keyword and see if I can find it. But anyway, I want to preface this by saying like I really have tried to give Ravensburger the benefit of the doubt on this kind of thing because we didn't know locations were coming. The judge program and comprehensive rules have been something we've asked for since before the first chapter came out. And since then that we've been told that like it's coming. And I want to say a judge program has either been acknowledged. I don't remember if they've said that there's definitely one coming or not. I want to say that they have.
I think they've said it's coming.
But that was a while ago, and with set championships rolling up and with regionals coming along, I have to imagine that they are like in the works. And I hope that we eat our words tonight and tomorrow they drop a judge program and a comprehensive rule set. Because there is a little over a month, I think, before set championships actually kick off. So that's plenty of time for them to release something. But it is making me a little bit nervous. And when I see games like Star Wars Unlimited, have comprehensive rule sets before the game even comes out, have all that squared away. I don't remember if I even finished my thought. With locations, I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt because we didn't know about locations for such a long time. I thought maybe there would be stuff in a comprehensive rule set, a rule sheet that talked about that. But now that all of this is out of the bag, I'm getting a little bit nervous about where those things are. And I'm expecting that something comes between now and the set championships. If something doesn't, I'll be pretty disappointed, to be honest, because I think that's just not running your competitive circuit, whatever you want to call it, very well. So here's to hoping for that.
So a few people were saying in the chat, I'm totally comfortable with making the rules judgments. I'm deeply experienced in tournament side of things, warnings, DQs, and whatnot. The only way to do is by doing. Yes, and then Timothy says no rules on stalling, stages, etc. So there is some. I can't find it. I have the tournament rules here, which is a document that was like a PDF that was put out. But this runs out the structure of tournaments. But there is a basic judge operations article, and I can't find it. I've definitely got it on the store. I've got it printed off at the store that I flick through it from time to time. But this isn't.
I definitely know it's out there.
Yeah. And this doesn't link to it, unfortunately, either. So, but it is out there, and it goes over all of the the things you would expect. Misplays. Unwarranted card knowledge. Slow play, stalling, etc. It's all there's a lot of stuff there, so it's not awful, and you're going in with some idea of stuff, but it's not as comprehensive as you'd like.
Is it the Is it the play correction guidelines?
Yes, that's the resources? One. They call it the play correction guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Well, let me see if I can.
There is stuff like I'll read off some of the stuff while Jonti does it, but there's stuff on inkwell errors, card count errors, tardiness, slow play, deck error, major and minor, marked cards, things like that. Like they address some things in that way on just how to correct.
Here it is. Yeah.
Errors.
And I do feel like it's this again feels like very much a thrown up together quick. So this available to public. Yes, you can, if you just I just literally just googled their play collection guides Lorcana, and it came up.
For the chat, anybody that might need it, most of what you need to find on this kind of thing, if you go to the official DisneyLorcana.com website, there should be a resources tab that you can click at the top. You may have to click like a little double bar to actually see it, but a lot of that stuff that you're looking for is going to be in there, and you just have to scroll down. It's under the event rules and documents, and then there's a play correction guidelines thing you can click and pick which language you need it in.
Yeah, and it is interesting to see, some of them, deck error. So 59 cards or more than 2 inks would be a match loss in the competitive event, which is, I partly feel like that may be a little extreme, but this is all you have to go on right now. Really and then. Because what so surprises me is that deck error. Oh, I've only got 59 cards. I'm missing I've unsleeved one of my copies to give to somebody or whatever. Match loss, marked cards. Warning. To me, that seems really strange.
Oh man, make sure you grab all your cards and you take them out of your deck box, people.
Yeah. Make sure you don't leave. Yeah, make sure you don't leave a card behind in your deck box. So. A lot of it is pretty standard stuff, and like I say, the biggest, for the most part, the biggest role of a judge is to be a level-headed, a mediator who just your job is to get play continuing as quickly and as with less changes as possible. That's what you want to do. So. Yeah, there you go. So that's there, and again, like you say, tomorrow judge document drops. And this whole half an hour.
I'd be so happy.
Is nothing. Yeah. Right? So, maybe that's all we're waiting off. Yeah.
It's one of those things. I don't know if Trey was saying this for the reason I'm about to explain, but he says, yeah, but Star Wars Unlimited is FFG. By the way, hello, Catherine. That's his daughter, I believe. She's a very cute little girl. She comes to the league and plays with us all the time.
Hey, Catherine. I apologize if a little British swear slips out.
But he says, yeah, but Star Wars Unlimited is FFG. And so I give Ravensburger the benefit of the doubt in some of this stuff, a little bit of leeway, because this is their first trading card game, right? They haven't done this before. They don't know what's standard. And even when people know it's standard, I think there's a little bit of merit in some areas to not just do what everyone else does. This is not one of them. But like FFG, has made a bunch of card games. They've been through this many, many years, and kind of know how this kind of thing works. Ravensburger does not. And my only hope is that we're talking for nothing right now. And like you said, tomorrow a judge thing drops and comprehensive rules drop or something. Hopefully before the set championships, at least.
Hopefully a week or two before, so we can all read it.
Yeah.
But the fair point there. People are saying that mark cards is understood to be accidental marking. Intentional marking would come under cheating, which is a separate sectino section. Yes, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But even still, I remember reading through that when it dropped at the time and thinking, oh, some of these are interesting choices, but it is what it is. That's the rules, and we stick to them. But what we do need is rules that we can, why does FFG keep making car games? Because they keep cancelling their games. All right, you're right, but they're doing some stuff right. Which
that's what I hear.
Yeah, they're doing some stuff right. Okay, so anyway, we're all super excited about the set championship still. I am desperately hoping a store near me runs one on a day I don't work and I can go and play in it, because I will be judging my one. So that's how that's going to go.
If my store absolutely needs a judge, I will do it just to have it run. But I am praying to Mickey that they don't need me to judge, because I would really like to compete for those promos.
Yeah. There we go. Shall we move on?
Yeah. Next, I guess we're just going to move into our Main Street Market Watch.
Sounds good to me. While you introduce that, I will be right back.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know, our Main Street Market Watch segment, we basically just look over the secondary market for Disney Lorcana, where singles are sitting, how expensive decks are, and I wanted to talk about it this week specifically because decks are getting expensive. I say that. Some decks are, some are not. Primarily, any deck that is playing Steel is very expensive, and any deck that's playing Emerald optimally is probably also really expensive. Honestly, with a lot of the new Inklands cards, the Inklands legendaries are pretty expensive, which like I love and hate to see, because I did feel like I had no incentive to open Rise of the Floodborn or continue opening Rise of the Floodborn, other than I never saw a Tragic Beast and kept telling myself I'd see one if I kept opening a pack, which just never happened.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with the Inklands, there's a much higher probability that you pull a card that like makes up the cost of your pack or whatever, which is nice to see.
Right? Like a lot of the rares are still sitting at comfortable prices as well. So, and the problem you get with something like Rise of the Floodborn is that it becomes this sort of like ever-fulfilling prophecy. The Tragic Hero is the only card worth money, so it's not worth people opening boxes just to try and hit Tragic Hero. So there's no more singles in the market. So Tragic Hero gets bought up. So Tragic Hero is worth more money, but there's no point in opening boxes. And you just get this loop, and it happens. It happens a lot with different card games and different sets. Some sets the value is much more spread out, and some you just get it spiked at a couple of cards. And the problem is once this set settles in, and just like 2 or 3 cards are really worth money, they just increase over and over, because there's no point in opening the rest of the boxes. The last one I can think of happening with Magic was Midnight Hunt, a set from a couple of years ago based around werewolves, and pretty much the only card that was worth money in that was it Midnight Hunt or Crimson Bear? They kind of mixed up. One of them had a I'm getting all muddled up now, but yeah, there was like one card that was worth money in that set. It was Midnight Hunt. It was Meat Hook Massacre. And it was like a $70 card. It actually got banned from Standard, but it didn't affect the price at all. It's mostly played in Commander, I think. But because that's the only card that was worth pulling, nobody opened any more products, and it just ended up going up and up and up because there just wasn't any out there. So yeah, Meat Massacre it was a really horrible card. It was it was an X cost, which means you can pay as much as you like to play it. But then the description of the card had an ability that cared about the X. So Meat Hook Massacre said, deal X damage to your opponent's cards.
Oh wow!
So if they had loads of 2s out, you could pay 2 and kill them all.
Pay 2 and
if they had loads of 5s out, you'd have to pay 5 to kill them all. But then not only was it a be prepared that scaled with the game, it then stayed on the board. It was an enchantment, so it stayed around, and then it said, every time. Oh, what was it? Every time you draw a card, your opponent loses a life. Every time you draw a card, you gain a life. Every time an opponent draws a card, they lose a life, or something like that. It was. So it was a be prepared that then stuck around and just kept giving you like goats.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's still gross. But it's pretty much the only card worth value of that set, so the price of it is astronomical because nobody's opening that set because it's not worth risking it to just pull one card, So yeah, it kind of, you get it occasionally, and it looks like it'll happen with Rise of the Floodborn, and it looks like Tragic Hero outside of Enchanted's obviously is pretty much the only thing that's worth hitting. So you'll find that, but
I'll say,
go ahead.
We are not financial advisors. Do not listen to any advice that we give. But I remember when Tragic Beast was at 40 and I was like, man, this is expensive. I'm just going to wait for time and wait for people to open him up and for him to go down. And he's only gone up. And like, we have not heard anything about a reprint. That's not to say that one won't come later and, his price will drop, or they won't surprise us with a set of reprints that Tragic Beast is included in. But if you're sitting and you're waiting for Tragic Beast to go down so that you can buy him when he's affordable, and you need him and you want to compete or whatever, like,
it's just not happening.
I pulled the trigger already because I don't think he's going down. I think if you need him, get him now before he goes to 60.
Yeah, 55 he's currently sat at. So so the one I had on screen before, Rapunzel, she's currently sitting at 31. Hasn't shifted too much, just sort of hovering, around 20, high 20s into early 30s. Beast Tragic Hero, he's just consistently seeing it climb up to like 55, 57. Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. My goodness, the time to buy him was on the February 22nd.
Yes, it was.
He was pre-sold at $50. He's now sitting at 35. Which I don't think is terrible. Yeah.
It's gone down a little bit since the release. I was hoping things would go down on Friday. That's when I bought the rest of my singles. They didn't really budge on Friday, to be honest with you. But like, he was sitting around $42 or $40 last week. So he's come down a little bit, probably $5 or $6, which is good. Yeah. And I would agree. 35 is still a little bit expensive. Like where I would like to see the game in general. I would like for things to hover maybe closer to the $30, $25 range, especially because once you start getting into decks where you want Beast Tragic Hero and Robin Hood and Ursula, like you're getting to $700 decks or something kind of crazy.
Oops.
But I don't think it's the worst.
And then the only one I wanted to show was A Whole New World. It was actually from set 1. And my goodness, this is creeping way back up there again, eh?
Yeah.
It's currently sat at 22.
It's the only super rare in the top maybe 15 most expensive cards. And Tinkerbell, I think, is the 16th most expensive card.
So basically, if you want to play Steel Song, you want to hope you've pulled these or had them for a long time.
Yeah.
And really, that's the only one that's really sitting up there, but like you say, everything else is all trickling up again, and mostly down to the fact that that set 1 and 2 don't have like any sort of confirmed reprint right now, so people are just sort of grabbing them and moving forward with them. So it's difficult. How would you guys like to see reprints? White border reprint sets, reprint only small sets. I don't want white borders; they look gross. But I understand what you mean. Just reprints that are artistically different. Personally, I'm more than happy with by something like set 5 or 6, we start to see set sizes increase to 225, 230, and 20 to 30 cards in the set are reprints of playable staples. That's what I would like to see. That to me sounds perfect. So I don't think it will happen because it's a bit too that's a bit too good maybe. But that's how I would like to see it personally. Would just like to see every set moving into the second year just starts having a handful of reprints in it.
I'd be happy with that only if cards were distributed in a decent way. Because I was thinking about this the other day, not in a context of them adding cards to a set, so we got more than 204. But even in that scenario, I think this would apply. I was thinking, like, let's take Beast Tragic Hero for example, most expensive card in the game outside of special enchanted cards. How would you feel if a set comes out and they're like, okay, if there's an extra legendary that you could pull and like it's beast, but you don't like maybe the second steel legendary is another Beast Tragic Hero and you only get one new steel legendary for the set, or like you get a third legendary in steel, so your pull rates are a little bit different in that front. I think it would be fine in like a rare slot or even a super rare slot, but we have so few legendary cards that I wonder what people's thoughts and attitudes would be about supplementing an old card for what would be a new art, or maybe it's a new art but just an already existing card.
I don't know really. It's tricky. It's a double-edged sword. However they do it, I think it at least has to have new art. I think that's a given, really. I think new art really will help because collectors won't mind at all then. Justin there says, I hate to buy packs for a new set and get cards from a set that I've already spent money on to complete. That is fair, but then that's kind of like pulling your fifth of any card though, right? Like it just becomes trade fodder, I understand. Yes, you're right. You're opening your first ever pack of set 5 and you pull a Be Prepared. You're right. It's not going to feel great. But if that's the only way you can get Be Prepared, and then suddenly that's a $15 card that you can trade out for something, it maybe feels a little less stingy. I'm not sure. They could introduce the list. I hope they don't. The list is a thing in Magic where it's a selection of reprints that randomly take a slot in a pack. And in theory, it's great, but they always pick crap cards to be on the list.
That'd be the thing I'd be scared of, to be honest.
Yeah, like we're already seeing that in the starter decks. They really choose some weird set 1 and 2 cards for those.
Flounders being reprinted.
Yeah, right. I mean, Flounders, cool. Here's a 1-drop 2/2. I get it. Like you need a turn 1, and there was very few 1-drops in set 3. I think it was like 3 1-drops, and they were all like bomby 1-drops, right? It was like Curse Merfolk, Rafiki. And there was one other. I think there was only like 3 1-drops in the whole set, and they were all like good, solid 1-drops. There was very few just the vanilla statted ones. So we understand reprinting them. I don't know why like Horace found a slot in one of them.
I know. Come on. They printed a few too many on their production line and just needed to slot them in. I don't know.
Reprinting sets will depend on how they progress the limited format. I bet it's special smaller sets with different arts. And maybe that's it. Maybe they do a 50 cards set or something. This will
never happen. This will never happen. But I hope it happens because I would collect I would collect all of it. I've wanted so bad for there to be like alt art seasonal cards. So there's an Olaf that's sitting on the beach, like in his lawn chair. There's a Moana in her winter coat or whatever next to a Christmas tree. I think it would be so fun to just like specifically pull those out during the time of year to play with. But that would be a fun way to introduce introduce already made cards and reprint them is just through like a special set alt art thing that's like a fun theme set, and you can run the Halloween Stitch 1-drop if you want, or Halloween Rockstar Stitch, or you can run the regular Rockstar Stitch. It doesn't matter. But
that sounds like a good idea, and I don't. It's completely out of it. I know Pokemon's definitely done. Pokemon does the trick or treat cards every year, right?
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah. I think they're just stamped like with little thing on
No, I think they have the art is like their little ghosts and stuff. I'm sure the art
I mean, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm
If
sure
that's
the
the
art
case,
is.
I don't know about it.
I'm
I'd
gonna
love to
quickly
see
look it
stuff
up.
like that, though.
Yeah.
I would collect. Oh my god, I'd collect so many holiday cards, summer cards, fall cards, all of it. It'd be so fun to just create a seasonal deck.
I completely. All 30 Trick or Trade. It was called Halloween cards. Let's see. Oh yeah, maybe they aren't. Oh no, maybe they are just stamped. Yeah, I thought the I'll bring it up screen. I thought they had they pick ghost types. Yeah, so it's,
Okay.
like some ghosty ones and stuff. And they put the little pumpkin Pikachu on there. I thought the art was a bit more themed, but yeah, I still think it's. But by the way, incredible product that I would love to see Lorcana do. The Trick or Trade packs. I think they're awesome.
Yes, Trick or Trade packs are amazing. I saw so many people. I feel like they've just been picking up over the years. I feel like 1 or 2 years ago I saw them and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And every year I just see more and more.
So this was the first year where we had kids come to the house and be like, "Did you have Pokemon cards?"
That's awesome.
I'm like,
I can't.
no,
you'll
get a bag of Lay's and you'll get stuff. This is Canada. You get
broccoli.
chips. I know that's a Canadian. I know that's a Canadian thing, giving chips at Halloween. It weirded me out when I spoke to Americans.
We
don't do that.
I forget what they're called, but they're these little like juice things that come in a plastic container that looks like a barrel, and they're like there's like different colored juice things. One of my neighbors used to hand those out instead of candy, and that was my favorite thing that I got. Like it was. I don't know. And I definitely know as a kid, I would have been 100 times happier to get Pokemon packs.
Yeah, than just more candy.
Than I would have candy.
100%. I might I could even make up little Lorcana packs myself out of all the commons and uncommons and stuff I have, right? So maybe I'll do it this year. But East Coast Canadian thing, maybe it's just an Ontarian. Maybe it's just an Ontarian thing.
Hugs, yes, Francis was talking about. Yeah.
Oh no, the drink was called Hugs.
Yeah, the drink was called
Hugs. Because if you went and knocked on someone's door at Halloween and they were like, "You get a hug," you're okay.
No.
My mom told me about you. But it's weird how you start to clock on. I was walking my kid around this year and I was like, "Oh, 26 full-size Snickers last year. Go and knock on it."
Yeah.
You remember the good ones. I know because he's celiac as well. He can't have anything with wheat. So, but I always tell him to just take it and say thank you, right? Yeah. And then I make sure I have a bag of stuff at home that I can trade out with him. So like if there's ever like a good one, I'm like, yeah, go and get them because I'll swap you out. But Pokemon. What we're saying? Yeah, Halloween Lorcana. I don't know how we got there, but that's what we need to do.
Reprints. That's what it was.
Yeah. So I think reprints are the solution to this. I don't think product reprints is the solution. I don't think we need to see a reprint of set 1 at this point. I just don't. I think we need to see a select cards put into sets somehow, and however they do it is probably fine. Personally, how I would like to see it done is just make the set slightly larger and reprint a selection of playable cards with alternate art, and I'd be fine with that. Yeah. And do you know what? I pull an alt art Be Prepared every now and again instead of a new card. I think I'm okay with it, honestly.
I'm actually totally okay with that. I wouldn't go out of my way to collect play sets of the cards that I already have, but I've said this before on the show. I love that Pokemon does it. I love that there's 5 different Professor's Research arts that you can play because I always have a favorite one, or I like to mix them in the deck. Like it's just so fun. And so if I would be totally happy with opening 4 new Be Prepareds that had a different art on them, just so I had a play set of different art cards. I'd love that.
Yeah, and I agree. All right, what was next?
You made me ink. Which is an interesting one this week.
I have a good You Made Me Ink this week because
Sorry,
I was gonna say I was at the store this week and I managed to get some games in before I started. But so I wrote myself off now on a Saturday morning, and I work for the Saturday evening. So I get the day off. And I got some games in, and the whole point of You Made Me Ink, for those of you who don't know, is it's our card of the week. It's how we do a card of the week, but it isn't what we try and do to make it a little bit different. It's not a card that we've necessarily enjoyed playing because it's good. It's a card that we haven't enjoyed playing against because it's good. It literally made us ink because it was not fun to play against. So I've been having a lot of fun with a new deck that I built. It's a it was a Leia Organa Rebel Rush deck, which is really great as long as you can get the win in before Darth Vader comes down. So this week's You Made Me Ink is a 7-costed, aggressive, villainous leader unit, ground unit, Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. He's a 5/8 Force Imperial Sith with the on attack ability of you may deal 2 damage to a unit. So how do you feel about this card, Brandon?
Well, the one Star Wars Unlimited game that I played was at Gen Con before the game came out, and I played with, I don't even think they were the starters. I think it was like a version of the Star Wars Unlimited.
I think it was similar to the Lorcana demos in that it was just like a little 40 card deck. Yeah.
And I played Darth Vader, and he was so fun. I loved him. Darth Vader is one of my favorite villains ever. I still have the Gen Con promos that they gave of both Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. I don't remember how or why they're different than the normal ones. But I don't know anything about that's not true. I know generally how to play Star Wars Unlimited. There's not a store within an hour of me that sells the game, so it's not at my Walmart or anything, so I can't buy it. I don't have cards for it. I probably would have pulled the trigger on it because I saw so many people opening stuff this weekend. And at first, the art was not really my favorite. It's still not my favorite. I think Lorcana art is better, to be honest.
I don't mind the art. I don't actually mind most of the art itself, but for me, the card itself is very busy. There's just so much going on. There's so much info. And there's all these little greeblies down the side. I know it's very Star Wars, but all these little greeblies.
Some cards where like the picture's on the bottom, and then like the text is on the top.
Actions
is the
like events
my
do that.
Brain. It's like chalk. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. But so I don't know. The game looks kind of cool. The little bit that I've played it is pretty fun, but I don't know much about it.
And as you've probably realized at this point, the only reason we thought we'd do this is just to kind of acknowledge that Star Wars Unlimited is out. I don't think at any point SWU. That sounds awful, doesn't it?
SWU.
SWU. Okay, SWU. I think SWU's fine. I don't think at any point SWU and Lorcana are really competition. I personally have found very little crossover in between the two, player base wise.
There's a couple people I know that have gone over, but like the large majority have stayed playing Lorcana.
But I do think, and yes, it can be said, this is FFG. This is the multiple versions of TCGs they've done. This is the 4th or 5th Star Wars TCG that's happened. It is one of those things that does seem difficult to stick. The hyperspace cards are much better. They really are. They look amazing.
They do. I wish they made me wish.
Enchanted, yeah.
They made me wish that we had the same thing for Lorcana, like that there was a full art version of every card.
Yeah. Yes.
I will say the one thing that I really like, I don't know
there isn't, because that would
Star
be
Wars
difficult to collect.
Well, but that's the thing. I like that there's like, what are there, 4 different variations of every card in Star Wars Unlimited? Like there's the hyperspace, the normal version, the hyperspace, the foil version, and the foil hyperspace.
But there are some that don't have some of those, but yes, like there's some starter deck only cards and whatever. But yeah, there's for the most part, there's this version. Then this card can be foil. And then hyperspace is basically borderless. Like they have a few little hyperspace whooshes around the outside. But it basically means a full art, and then that can be in foil. And then the leaders, which is what this is actually. This is the playable side of the leader card. They have a showcase variant, which is basically the game's version of an enchanted, where but they're much harder to pull. 1 in every 12 cases, 1 in every 12 boxes has one of those in there. So they're pretty insane. Yeah, SW goes into Rebels and Clone Wars stuff. Yeah, there's already quite a lot. There's already quite a few Rebels in there. Clone Wars is coming in the next set, I think, is what they said. But yes, I'm actually not playing a Leia Organa deck. I'm now playing a Sabine Wren deck. But again, it's the reason why I picked Darth Vader, because he genuinely has made me ink. Because the Sabine Wren deck, it's just about getting little bodies on the board. It's a rush deck. It's your Lilos and your Maleficents. They're just coming out and attacking. But once Vader comes down on turn 7, as you can see there, on attack you deal 2 damage to a unit. So he can hit something for 5 and just kill something else for 2. And my whole deck is 2s, right? Like there's nothing bigger. So if I haven't won by turn 7, I'm not winning the game.
You've lost.
Yeah. This is the turn where the Medusas and the Tremaines start coming down against your rush deck and just start picking stuff off. Me,
and I think speaks on just how different Lorcana is as a game and its win condition. This card, Darth Vader and Lorcana, is Kronk.
Yeah.
That nobody sees play.
Yeah. It's funny how much of a difference they can make, eh?
It's funny how different where the win condition is tied to your stat line versus the lore.
Yeah, the lore
changes the game.
I mean, this 5, this is basically that's 5 lore there. The red number in this, right? Yeah, this is because you're dealing damage to a base, and the first base to get to 0 loses. So yeah, the 5 there is the thing that really matters. But yeah, no, it's a fun game. I haven't gone as hard into it as Lorcana, obviously, but I did pick up a few bits. A few bits and bobs, and I build a deck, and I'm having fun with it. And we've got we had about a dozen guys out to play this week, and I'm hoping that will slowly pick up. They are doing some stuff great though. There's comprehensive rules out the gate. Their weekly play is fantastic out of the gate. They come with the prize packs. There's a little foil pack with 3 cards in, and it's 3 cards with alternate full art in them, and there's a 1 in 3 chance of one of them being foil. So, and all you have to do is come out and play, and you get one of those every week. So none of this playing for a month and earning points to get 1 foil card that you know what it is. Every week you get a little pack with 3 in, and it's such a better deal. People are just they get to crack something every week. I will say we have no products. We have no Star Wars products. It's all sold out. There's none at the distributor. It's sold just as well as Lorcana. Apparently, our distributor said that actually Star Wars Unlimited is sold better than Lorcana. He said whereas Lorcana was dished out and everyone got a little bit, there are a lot of stores that haven't carried this at all, but the ones who have bought as much as they want to, which is something that didn't happen with Lorcana to start off with, right? So he said they've actually sold quite a bit more because there's been more to sell, and the places who have been into it have been able to take as much as they like. We haven't sold as much as Lorcana, but it's still been a really healthy launch for us. It's still been a positive launch, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Honestly, but overall, It ain't Lorcana, but I still think it was worth mentioning that they've had a relatively successful launch, and it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And if you fancy something a little different, it's relatively accessible. As far as cost goes, everything is super cheap apart from about 6 legendaries, so just the same as Lorcana, basically. Yeah, Boba Fett is $60 right now. If you want one.
I mean, that was Rapunzel set 1.
There you go. Yeah,
not much different, to be honest. I was gonna say something and I forgot about it now. Oh yeah, you mentioned I don't think it's better than Lorcana. I don't either, to be honest. There's a reason I stick with this game. I think, and then not to say that Star Wars Unlimited won't last a long time, but FFG has a track record. But beside that,
I think this is probably the best run they've had. And they're doing that thing that Lorcana did, where they're like, "Oh, we're working on set 8. We're working on set 9." I think saying things like that is good, even if it's not true.
I think that's really good. But if I had to pick a single card game outside of Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, just to ride or die, it's Lorcana. I think it's got the most potential. So
100%.
I'm sticking with this.
It's not in the show notes, but before we go into our final discussion about some tournaments, I did say that I was going to do a pack crack.
Yes,
because I set up all the camera for the Trove last week and it's still here. And I was like, let's open a pack and see.
While you get this set up, you already have it set up, or you just like ready to go?
I'm good to go, but it's okay. You can chat.
Okay. I was gonna say, Jonti told me this about 15 minutes before the stream, and I wish he had told me earlier, or like we would have planned it earlier, because I had to go to the store at lunch today. And I've been so bad about like the past 2 times that I've been to the store. There's just those Inkland blister packs hanging there. You know, you got to buy one.
I imagine you're in the same boat as me at this point. You've probably got most of what you need.
Oh yeah, I ordered everything that I needed Friday. I don't know why I'm opening packs.
It's a scratch off. It's a scratch off.
Yes.
You're buying a scratch off, right? That's all it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I get it.
I did it one time, or I did it like sometime last week, and the very first card that I opened was a Helga.
Oh, there you go.
And nothing else really. It was 2 super rares, but it was Wendy Darling and Genie, so nothing too special. Today I open a packle at the store, and can you guess what the both rare slots were in the pack?
Was it Wendy Darling and Genie?
No. No. It was much more exciting than that for me.
Oh, okay.
It was the first rare slot was rare Helga Sinclair.
Oh, no way. And then this was the super rare.
Was super rare.
Oh man, that'd be a tough draft pack, eh?
Yeah, it would be a tough draft pack.
You take the super rare, hoping the rare made it back around again, but I don't think it would.
No, probably not.
Double Helga. That's awesome.
But anyway, I don't know if this will be a recurring thing or not, but if Jonti will tell me beforehand, I'll grab a. Also,
here's how recurring it is. I have 5 packs sat here.
Okay.
So
hey, that's 5 weeks.
There's 5 weeks worth at least.
More by that time.
Because I just grabbed some packs on the way out for today.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move over to the product camera. Oh, it's a little blurry. Let's see if it zooms in. Oh, don't mind these. They're just my Judge promos from Star Wars Unlimited. Yeah, this is just my Luke and Vader Judge promos for judging the pre-release. Must be nice.
Those look really nice, actually.
Nice, eh? All right, we've got. We should do pack wars. That's good. I don't know how we'd manage with another camera on Brandon's end, but
no, I would just hold it up to mine. I don't have the setup for it easily.
You want to get it sorted though, because we're going to be doing. We want to try and do some games doing this.
It's right there, buddy. It's just waiting.
Just behind.
I just have to pick this up and move it.
Wow. All right, here we go. Just the one pack. So we'll go through it, and then we'll maybe we'll see what we would draft. Because I think that's always fun.
I like that. Okay.
Maid Marian, Gizmo Suit, Webby Vanderquack, Milo Thatch, Magic Broom, that's the big sweeper, the 1/5, that when it's a location it becomes a 3/5. The Kida, 1-drop Kida. 3-drop Kick Cloud Kicker. I found the card I would draft so far.
Yeah.
Predict the rare. Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you a second. First uncommon was Kick Cloud Kicker. Second one, Chernobog's Followers. Very draftable as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, very draftable card.
So low damage, very draftable card.
Yeah, and the 1-drop Pluto as well is the third uncommon. So it's pretty solid uncommon slot, to be honest with you. I think out of those, I'd still probably do the kit.
I think I'd do the
tempo value on the kit, man, is insane.
It's insane.
First rare is Audrey Ramirez, 2/5 with Ward. That when she quests, you can ready an item. Second rare is Starlight Vial. We know how I feel about those kind of cards. And the foil is Magicka Dispel 3/4. Return chosen item equal to this character's power to its player's hand. So, Kick Cloud Kicker all day, I think, on that one as a draft.
So. Yeah, Kit Cloud Kicker is my first pick.
Yeah, wasn't a great deck. Wasn't a great pack. But
no. It had some good uncommons. But...
Yeah, uncommons, the strongest things in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chernobog, Pluto, and Kit. 3 very playable uncommons, I think, in their respective decks.
Really funny, and then we can move past this. If you happened to open a enchanted Stitch.
Oh, man.
Like, have you seen the pictures? There was a Mickey Trumpeter that had like a little bit of the Stitch it was like a misprint. It was a miscut, and a little bit of the stitch art was on the very bottom of the trumpeter card.
Oh wow!
They were printed together.
Yeah, they 100% they were. Yeah, and there's a few gone out there. I'll just go back to show that second product camera. Trey there says that there was curved edges on the ad cards.
I've yet to find those.
Yeah, I see a lot of people posting about this. Some are curved edges and some are corner edges. I can say this honestly, I don't care. Like it's not a thing. They go in the trash. Stop printing them.
Yeah,
give us three more commons and let us draft the game properly.
Yeah, that could be a whole other episode.
It could be another episode where we want to have a bitch all night.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Cool. All right, so we want to finish the night on a slightly happier note. I say a slightly happier note. There's loads of Ruby Amethyst
for some it might not be so happy. Yeah. Yeah, so there were a ton of tournaments this weekend, partially due to SCG Con Philly. They held a 1K on a Friday, 5K on a Saturday, and then a 1K on a Sunday. We'll start with the 1K on the Friday. And we can look at the top 8. It doesn't look like all of the top 8 is actually listed here.
No, it seems we have first, second, third, and then a handful of top 8s. Yeah.
But interesting, so little steel. Like, I say interesting, it's probably because somebody can afford the freaking cards to play them. but if you, I don't know what page you're on, but I'm looking at just like the overall tournament deck.
Yeah, I'm on the same.
And the one steel deck is $700, and then everything else is less than $300.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to have a big effect on this meta if things don't come down. But in first place, taken by Rob Serpy, I believe is the way you pronounce his last name, is Ruby Amethyst Bounce. Good old faithful. And something interesting, I think, with this deck list is there's no Queen Castles. That's been a
new sort of staple for this deck.
Yeah, I've seen those in pretty much every list, and so I find it really interesting that those aren't in here. It looks like they probably put them in for some Yzmas. I don't know, everything else in here I've seen in other lists.
I mean, Mary's Fish Hook is a little techie. That's the one that I say creeping in a little. I actually really like it as a card, honestly. I
love it.
I do feel like it's kind of replacing Crab in some ways, so it kind of makes sense to see a 2-of next to a 2-of of the Crab there, really. I feel like this is maybe Rob still kind of figuring out which he's preferring situationally.
I think it's very similar to like Medusas versus Tremaines in that like they both kind of do the same job, but they're really good in certain scenarios. So the ones that I'm thinking of are like being able to play a Crab or have a Crab on board and then play a Fox to give your Fox the 7 strength to take out. It's exactly enough for a Queen's Castle or something. And you can either like develop more with Crab or whatever. That's really nice. Or being able to play Maui's Fish Hook on top of that and maybe play a Maui with it to be able to use the Fish Hook for free, or like the Fish Hook is likely going to stay around longer than the Crab is. So if you have a little bit of a lead in a game and you have the extra, or you can afford to spend 3 ink during your turn to just play the Fish Hook and maybe not do anything with it or do something with it, it can be kind of nice. But I've been loving Fish Hook.
So I've done some limited testing with this, and honestly, it's more of a sort of know thy enemy testing than anything else. I don't really enjoy playing this deck. I played this a lot during set 2 and really got fed up at the thing, to be honest with you. So it's more just to kind of see what the new lines look like. I find I was very rarely just putting Hook down on 3 and passing. Like I very often found it came on 5 alongside a 2-drop. Or honestly, I found I was doing it quite a bit on like 8 with Maui, like playing them both. Which I don't think I would have called before actually getting some testing in with it. But no, I like it as a card. Honestly, I think it's a lot more versatile than it initially looks, whenever we look at cards coming out for a new set, anything that says the name of a card on it, like a name of a character, I usually just go, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think I probably did that with this, honestly, when it first came. I was like, oh yeah, Maui, it's a gimmick. But actually, this is just pretty good, even without a Maui in there. Like, it's just pretty good. And then if with Maui out, you're cooking. It's great.
Yeah, I definitely was down on this card, wrongfully so, when we saw it. Part of the thing with going over the cards when they get revealed is it's so busy. A lot of times I'm like actually looking at the card for the first time. So there's a lot of takes I probably have that are just really wrong in hindsight. But Maui's Fishhook I saw and I was like, we already have Peter Pan Shadow, or we already have Crab, we already have like whatever we need to challenge evasives and give things strength. But I just really underestimated the card. Like Maui's really good, and having both of those things in one card to give anything extra strength is it's great. I played around with a Amber Ruby deck for a little while that I haven't touched in a bit, but I would still like to explore more. And it ran Maui's Fishhook because it's just like locations are so prevalent, especially the higher willpower locations.
Yeah.
That like oftentimes you'd need the extra strength or the challenger +3 to efficiently get rid of a location. And like Trey says in the comments, item removal is really low right now. So being able to just have a fish hook on board kind of denies your opponent the ability to just play a location and then pass, because you probably deal with it effectively.
It's probably going to get cleaned up, and in these colors, that's the only answer to locations, right? Like, you have got to swing into them. But Mary's Fishhook letting one thing swing in, Mary's Fishhook letting Fox swing into a castle is much better than having to swing your Fox and your whatever else, So it's just a good tempo saver there, I think. The only things I think are really notable at the moment with Ruby Amethyst is Pinocchio's creeping back in, the little 2-drop that actually turns something sideways. Like, I always have felt that this card is good, to be honest with you. One of the first decks I built for set 2 was Ruby Amethyst, but it was much more focused on challenging, so it was running like the Shere Khans and the Queen of Hearts and stuff. And obviously that deck loved Pinocchio. But I never really saw it anywhere else. So it's interesting to see it coming in set 3, where, like you say, the only real sort of new problem is locations. I mean, I guess it's kind of nice to turn their Ursula sideways before they've used it. That's probably, I feel that's probably what it's there for.
Well, I've seen it serve a bunch of purposes. Like, it's kind of required Ruby Amethyst to start playing their 1/3s again, because if you play Rafiki on one and then like they play Pinocchio and turn your sideways, they can just remove it. Now you don't have anything to bounce Snake with. But I think primarily, like you said, it came for needing to answer Ursula. The green steel matchup into Ruby Amethyst is very favored to green steel, I believe, especially if they can get some of the discard stuff going. And if you let Ursula live till the next turn, she's probably going to cause some trouble. So I think that's a big thing. And then just having the ability to like turn a Robin Hood or a Beast or, any of the other good cards sideways and force a trade with them has been really good. I saw Pinocchio played a little bit more as a tech card in set 2 and eventually kind of lost out to other stuff. But I've play tested with Ruby Amethyst a little bit this set already, kind of like you said, to know thy enemy sort of a thing. And Pinocchio's felt really, really good. Specifically 2 of. I've seen some people play the 3 of. I find sometimes he gets a little bit bricky, and I end up playing him in weird spots that I don't want to. But
I originally put 4 of in him because I'm a fan of the card. I put 4 of in, and I was very often just playing him as a 1/1, and just to get him out of my hands and stuff. And so I think 2 is probably the right number there. But otherwise, it's solid. And I'll say this again. I've said this a few times, and I've been guest on podcasts a little bit lately, and I always mention this. I have no problem with this deck being good. No. I just don't want it to be the only good deck. And at the minute, I still don't think it is. I don't think this is the only good deck right now. It's just solid. Yeah.
I think we are getting closer to a reality where Ruby Amethyst is again the most consistent deck, and therefore probably one of the better options to bring to a tournament. So I think we are going to see its popularity increase a little bit, because other than maybe Emerald Steel that I'm aware of, I don't think there are other decks across the general scope. I know that there's some competitive players that like really, they all they play is Sapphire Steel, or all they play is Sapphire Ruby, and like they'll say that their win percentage is higher into Ruby Amethyst. But I'm saying across the board, I don't think there's any other deck than maybe Emerald Steel that is favored against Ruby Amethyst. At the very least, I think they're toss ups. And the problem with Emerald Steel is it kind of like last set, to be honest. Some of the other decks, it falls to think like Sapphire Steel and some of the other Sapphire decks. And like especially Steel Songs, it does pretty poorly against them.
What you find is that all of the things that can fight Ruby Amethyst also just fight each other really well.
Yeah,
and Ruby Amethyst just ends up sitting on the pile of the carcasses, right?
Yeah. So I'm eager to see what that does with our meta. I'm really hoping that it doesn't turn out like last set. So far, it's not looking that way because even though some of the decks may not absolutely dominate Ruby Amethyst or anything, I do think they're much closer in power level to Ruby Amethyst than they were in the last set.
Yeah, the gap is much smaller, I think.
And so I think especially at a higher level, you can see more than, it'll be more than the 6 of the top 8 decks of Ruby Amethyst. I think we'll see a wider spread, which is good. Because like you said, I'm totally fine with this deck being a good deck. I just don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I have to take this deck to a tournament or else I'm shooting myself in the foot. And I mean, another scary thing, and then I'll shut up and let you talk for a second. Cool. Ruby Amethyst is one of the cheaper decks in the format right now. It's less than $200. And is, I would say, the most consistent deck, like just by far, and maybe one of the more forgiving decks. So easy to pick up, easy to play, very successful. We'll see what happens.
So the only thing I was going to say was, and obviously if you don't wish to discuss it, that's fine, because some people don't. Right now, if you had to lock it in today, what deck are you taking to win that Stitch?
Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah.
Primarily because I'm most comfortable on that deck. I've played it enough, and I know that it's forgiving enough that like I could probably do pretty well matched up against people of similar skill level, or maybe even higher with different decks. I will say I am considering. I've been playing a lot of Sapphire Steel, and I've been playing a lot of Emerald Steel too, because I think both of those would still be fine picks. Like honestly, anything other than Red Steel, than Ruby Steel, is probably fine to take to a set championship, because like they're all good decks.
When you say anything, you mean anything in the top echelon of stuff, right? Like,
I mean, like,
Amber Sapphire.
No, I'm saying anything other than Ruby. Sorry, I didn't say that very well. If you pick any steel deck except Ruby Steel,
right? Okay,
I think you could take and be completely fine. You have a good chance of like doing well. Yeah, sorry, I said that in not a good way.
I thought you meant like anything of the established meta deck. Sorry, I thought you were saying that you could rock up with a.
I mean, and honestly, kind of, because we'll see in some of the future tournaments. This one's a little bit Ruby Amethyst heavy.
It is. This one came out. This was on the Friday night, and I'll be honest with you, my heart sank a little when I saw this. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good week.
There was a Sapphire Steel that made it into the top 4, and then it's just kind of Ruby. There was a Emerald Amethyst bounce deck that made it in too, which like is fine to see. But in some of the other ones, it's a bit more widespread.
Yeah. So moving on to the 5K, it is a lot of a lot of Amethyst Ruby bounce. But yeah, there's a Cogsworth in Friends deck doing pretty solid. Nothing to really report around this one. Tight deck, like one Tamatoa, one Detective Mickey, but you know.
One thing that's very interesting to me in this deck is it's honestly pretty different than the Sapphire Steel list that I've seen going around. There's probably like 3 or 4 different versions that I've seen people playing with. Grandma Tala is not really in many of them, and to see 3 of her in here, I think is kind of exciting, because it was a card that a lot of other people were excited about.
Yeah,
people were having a difficult time like figuring out how she worked. I'm surprised to not see any McDuck Manors because those things are really good, and that's being played in a lot of Sapphire Steel decks right now. So it's honestly a very interesting list, and like it looks great. It looks fine. Everything I'm looking at the list, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. But there's a couple things that are different, like the one jump aheads, and typically I'll see a 4 of Fishbone Quill and then a 3 of Mickey Mouse Detective, because you're just trying to play a 5-drop on turn 4 and then sing a whole new world on turn 5. But I'm assuming because Grandma Tala is there, you're running a little bit more of the ramp stuff with one jump ahead.
Yeah, because you almost don't mind top decking one jump ahead if your Tala's down. Right? Like it's gain a law. So yeah, but it's still surprising to see 4 of. The Tamatoa I don't quite get with just Popsicles and Fishbones.
Yeah, that's true. There's only 2 items in the deck, isn't there?
Yeah, and they're items that.
And there's nothing
that Haram pops a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that
so
is a little interesting.
Yeah, like obviously he's bringing them back, and maybe he's just there for like a real little late game. He brings the Popsicle back and helps you dig a little. But yeah, I don't. That's the only thing that really surprises me about this one is that I can't imagine why that one Tamatoa couldn't just be a second Mickey Mouse or a.
Yeah,
or even a 4th Grandma Tala. Honestly, maybe. Well, also it's very new in the meta. Maybe the guy only had 3 Grandma Talas.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
was like, I've only pulled 3.
I've definitely seen Tamatoas being played, and like Tamatoa Loki is a pretty decent card in this format because so many people are playing Medusas, and like it misses Medusa. I'm seeing a couple Dragonfires come out, but it's like the Along Came Zeus doesn't take care of this. Be Prepared is like can take care of this, but you're maybe only using it on Tamatoa. Medusa misses this. There's quite a few, like it survives a turn usually.
I think it just needs a bit more item support for it to really.
I am interested to see how few items there are in this deck and to play the extra Tala, but
interesting deck. Anything else from the 5K worth looking at? I would like to have a quick look at this top 8 Amethyst Emerald because this has been my main deck at the moment. I'm having a lot of fun with this, really getting into a good groove with it. I think also have 4 Ursulas, so feel like I have to kind of play this or Emerald Steel, honestly, because like it will be just a waste of the money. But this is my kind of deck. I like a rush deck. I like a low to the ground, win before you try and do anything kind of deck anyway, to be honest with you. And then this does have a little bit of a sort of tempo-y mid game vibe if it needs to, but more often than not, this is just crushing by turn 4 or 5, honestly.
Yeah, this Emerald Amethyst was, the winner of the tournaments on release weekend, and then we saw it really dive off, I think, after Steel really popped up, and now apparently there's not as much Steel being played, but like I still think this is a great deck. Like I look at the deck, I look at people in Discords building decks using these colors, and I'm like, yeah, Kit Cloud Kicker is really good. Ursula's really good. Both of them, like the tempo. Like, this is such a good tempo deck. Just being able to bounce stuff and kind of keep an advantage on your opponent. So like, if anybody is running this deck or thinking of running this deck, and you don't see it in your top tournaments, whatever, don't be discouraged because this is also one of the cheaper decks of the format. Like,
you can get of Ursula, really.
Yeah. You don't have to run the expensive Ursulas for this deck to do well. I don't think. Obviously, it helps if you.
She's arguably, like, I wouldn't say win more, but definitely, Friends on the Other Side is a good card. Cool. Playing it twice is really great, but playing it once, it's still pretty good. My only slight issue I'm having with it, and I'm gonna go. It was a bit of a meme last week that I was like. I'd put on Twitter, play 20 on Inkables, you cowards. I think I'm running like 17 in this, and it's a little high, and I need to try and trim it. And I think at the moment I'm playing too many Bibbities and Mother's Knows Best, and I think they need trimming a little because they're really great if you've got the right board for them. Bibbity mostly, like Bibbiti's really great if you've got a good target, but a lot of the time it's just not. it just isn't doing as what you want it to do, right? Like it's
Yeah.
readying something basically. Is it what 8 out of 10 times it's letting you ready a character, which could be enough, can be enough. But you're not getting. There's not so many ETBs that you really want to hit here. It's pretty much your kits and your genies really are your into the battlefield triggers. So goats, rabbits, but
yeah, there's a couple hits here, but I find more than anything when I'm looking at uninkable cards, I just like the question I end up asking myself is how flexible are they? And like if it's a tech card so that I can gain 5 lore in a turn by bouncing goat over and over, and that happens 1 in every 20 games, sometimes you just gotta say, okay,
and that's it. Yeah, that's it. So I'm actually not. Then you're playing it wrong. Haha. Please explain. Please part your wisdom upon us, Justin. I'm actually not running Queen's Castle in this, and I that's just because I haven't got round to putting it in, and that's 100% where they go. Basically, the uninkables just shaved down. I tell you what, I am playing just because I like the little spice. 2 Cuzcos from set 1, the green,
the ward one.
Yeah, the ward.
Yeah. He's pretty good.
Do you know what? Because sometimes just throwing him down, I'm like, let's go. Lucifer, Sting Bibbity, drop Lucifer again, and then finish with Sad Beast. Yeah, well, I'm not. That's not these colors, and not what this deck wants to do. Yeah, that's fine. I had a lot of fun with Lucifer in set 2, and Bibbity Bobbity Boo in him, yes, but also it kind of lost me some friends. So there were definitely people at locals who are you playing that thing with the cat? Yeah, no.
Yeah, be warned, people, when you bring a discard deck to league, people don't like you.
Yeah, so yeah, I think, but otherwise, I'm playing this deck. I personally would probably put Chernobyls down a little and boost the Rafiki's up. I think Rafiki's just great.
Rafiki's so good.
Yeah,
such a good card.
I want a 4 of him. I completely agree with the 2 of on Snake. I feel like with the other 2 drops, this and I think I said that on this show a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I was like, I see Snake slowly getting squished out, and it's happening. So I'm right, and you should always listen to me. But otherwise, yeah, this is pretty much what I'm playing. So I'm happy to see it do well because I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. I like your Cusco tech with grab your swords being pulled by a lot of steel lists and much more targeted removal being played, and then I mean, there's just not much that takes him out outside of be prepared in this meta, to be honest with you. And he's a menace. Of course, he can be challenged as soon as he's exerted, but
yeah.
It's 3 lore, so
I will say that SB on there says 5-card draw off of Rabbit that's the best thing that happens in that deck is Ursula singing Bibbity and bouncing Rabbit and drawing 5 is kind of, or drawing 4 is kind of insane.
It's great unless you're playing into Sapphire Steel, Amber Steel, or Emerald Steel.
Yeah,
which like top decks. But I agree that's very strong, and if your matchup is not playing a whole new world against you, I mean, same thing with Goat. I don't know. It's just like I think a 1 of Bippity here is fine for that reason. It's like it's a great combo. If you can do it in the right matchup, you profit off of it. But like if you're running 3 Bippities trying to draw 5 cards and then you run into Steel all day, like
you end up with a clunky hand. The other thing I'll say about one, I still don't like 1-ofs, honestly, because if you're playing a 1-off currently, you're just hoping to see the card and even you're going to see less, especially when it's a card like that where it's situational and it's like, okay, cool, I've got a goat on the board and I've got an Ursula, or I've got a Merlin on the board and I've got an Ursula, or even sort of genie on the board and you can bounce a few things or whatever. But like the situation is already very specific. So just reducing the chance of even seeing the card that cares about the situation just to me seems ridiculous. Like why not just make it? Why not just not put it as part of your game plan and instead increase the consistency of something that you are happier seeing, such as a Rafiki or a Crab or something. I don't know. I don't like 1-ofs in Lorcana. There's no way of getting them.
I'm less likely to do a 1-of for an uninkable card, specifically because I can't ink it. Yeah. I was playing some Ruby Amethyst this week, and I had a very funny and fun interaction where I was playing a one of Maui Whale. I don't remember if we talked about that last show or not.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, so Maui Whale is being like tested and tacked into some Ruby Amethyst cards because he's big, takes out locations. You can ready him a bunch of times and continue to challenge with him. And I played an Amber Steel player, and as soon as Maui Whale hit the board, they just stopped doing everything. Like they're giant, Cinderellas that they play. They were playing 3 of. They would play it, and then it was just like, now what? Like I just have Whale sitting here. Please exert. Yeah, please exert this. Like it was so funny. Yeah. And I have I play one Whale because it's only good in a couple situations, and it's an inkable card, and it was really fun. But honestly, it could probably be cut for other stuff.
I like that. I like that. I like a card. I've always said this. I like a card that makes your opponent have to spend brain time on it. It's why I'm a huge Prince Eric fan. Honestly, I just love because for kind of the same reason. You put in Prince Eric down, and they go, "Oh, hold on."
Yeah.
Oh wait. Yeah. Like I'm such a fan of doing that, honestly. And I feel like and I feel like eventually cards get figured out, but early on in a meta, a card will do that. It happened to me, and I sat here and laughed my head off while it was happening. They played a morph on 2, and I just didn't have a thing to do. I didn't have a kit, and I didn't have a Pinocchio. I was like, cool, let's see your Robin Hood or what. And they did a Bell Archer on 3, and I went, oh. Because I don't play any removal, right? Like I can bounce the thing, right? But I wasn't seeing any of the bounce. I was like, oh man, and I completely had to make me rethink. I was like, okay, so now I just need to empty my hand so that I can swing into it. Yeah, and that's fine, right? But it took me 2 turns to empty it. They got 9 lore off the thing, and I killed it. But I love that. I love a card that comes down and makes the opponent go, oh, hold on.
Yeah,
it's so satisfying.
Yeah, it's so fun. It is very satisfying, for sure.
And then Sunday we've only got a few decks from Sunday, but a couple of Steel songs in there. This one's $722. What the hell is this?
Steel song is wild. I bet Rapunzel's Beast, Robin Hood, Whole New World.
So it's Rapunzel, Beast, Robin Hood, Whole New World, Cinderella, Tinkerbell, Rockstar. Along Came Zeus is probably still a few bucks, right? To be fair, like everything here is a few bucks apart from the 1-drop vanillas. Cinderella Ballroom Sensations like $5, I think. Oh, it tells you higher up, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm sitting here looking. Yeah, sorry, I'm in Canadian. So $3 for Cinderella. Ariel 2. Oh man, I dread to think what I paid for some of those on set 1.
$2.50.
Yeah, Rapunzel 33, Beast 55, Robin Hood 38, and then Stitches and Tinkerbells are both like $10. Stout is just under $4 now. Stitch, this is just an expensive deck, and then Whole New World obviously at $20.
Yeah,
oof. I mean, I dig it though. It's good. The Rockstar. It is a
good deck.
I don't know if there's Rockstar's. I guess he's just a shift character that quests for 3, right? Like I don't think you're actually really hitting his 2-cost ability much there, are you?
I think you do. Like the Amber Steel that I've tested with, like genuinely still, I think if you're not running Stitch Rockstar in an Amber Steel deck, you're playing the wrong Amber Steel deck. Okay. Like it's too much value, especially if you're playing lanterns like this person is. You can shift it out on turn 3. It quests for 3. It can sing songs. It helps. It's a huge draw engine when you need to search for stuff. It's like creates so much value.
Ballroom is a 1-drop, so 4, 8, 12, so 13 1-drops. Nothing in the 2-drop. So yeah,
it's almost a fourth of your deck.
Yeah, maybe it's just enough to see value out of it. Yeah, stout-hearted. I still think he's pretty good.
Stefan's asking,
just very difficult to get rid of.
Why lanterns instead of Pluto? I did a lot of testing for Amber Steel because I really liked the Pluto line. I liked the, being able to get stuff out early. Amber's my favorite ink, so I was just trying to see what was there. And honestly, in my testing, I found that lanterns is just more consistent, and you can do more stuff with lanterns than you can with Pluto or with Doc, because oftentimes you play Pluto on one, even if you're going first, there's cute stuff you can do, like playing Ariel on turn 2, which like is good. Playing Ariel on turn 2 is really good. The issue is 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100, Pluto dies.
He dies. 100% he dies.
As soon as you use him.
Free kill.
There's plenty of decks that, like, if you're not using Pluto on turn 2, he might be banished before you can use him on turn 3. And so then you feel really behind, and especially in decks where you're going second, or a deck where you're having to sort of play catch up, having a 0-2 on your side of the board feels really bad. And I've tried building decks around a way that like helps protect your Pluto a little bit, so that maybe you can shift into the big one later, by playing a bodyguard on turn 2 and kind of waiting, and it just lanterns is more consistent. Like your other 1-drops are better. They're threatening more stuff usually, like with a Robin Hood or a Stitch or Cinderella. And then lanterns, there's so little item removal, and certainly not enough to get around 3 or 4 lanterns, that your lantern's just going to net you value over and over and over again throughout the course of the game.
And again, in every single one of these steel decks, I've not seen a single Benger, right? Like there's just the item removal it just isn't a concern right now.
Yeah, the only thing that people are running right now is Rise of the Titans, and that just is conveniently an item removal because locations
just
are
happens to have items on it as well. No, I agree with that. I think Pluto is probably designed for a bodyguard deck, honestly.
I think so. Yeah,
it just wants to turn sideways, get a decent bodyguard out quickly, and keep it covered. And then you get the big bodyguard out, and then you're going to be playing things like what's the one that gives bodyguards +1, and the Little John, is it?
Little John?
Yeah. Like I think that's where the design space is. It's not there. I don't think it's not. In a deep voice in a world without eyes. Are you doing a Don? What was his name? Don LaFontaine, is it?
I don't know.
In a world with no item removal.
I know what you're talking about.
I think his name was Don LaFontaine. He was the guy who did that for years, and then everyone copied. That's his
so
name.
Funny.
Yeah. So it's a fun, expensive deck, and it kind of. Well, the reason I'm so shocked about how expensive it is I could build this.
Yes, God, I don't even want to think.
And that blows my mind.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, that's the thing. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about decks being pretty expensive, especially good decks, because like Emerald Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire, and Amethyst Ruby are probably the 3 better decks in the format that are not Steel, in my opinion. And I think Steel X is better than some of those generally. And so I didn't give it a second thought because I already have all my Rapunzels. I've recently got my Tragic Beast. Like, I have all these cards. I'm not paying attention to how much money I've put into this game. It would make me nauseous. But I think about like there was a guy at League that like came back to Lorcana after not wanting to spend so much money on it in set 1, who said I told myself I'd wait till set 3, and if prices came down I'd play. And he asked me what he should play, and like without thinking I started recommending, Emerald Steel is doing really good right now, it sounds like something you'd be interested in based on his play style, or Emerald Amethyst. Then I started looking at deck prices, and I'm like, I just suggested that guy buy a $600 deck. Like, he doesn't have any cards. And so I'm thinking of like introducing people to this game now that it's getting on its feet and we want more people to show up and play. It has to be accessible to them. And I can't suggest Steel anything to anybody right now, because if they don't already have the cards, like you and I have been collecting for the past
Well,
9
that's
months.
it. Yeah, I mean, like I say, the Cinderellas, I just pulled them. I think Tinkerbells, I think I probably just pulled them over the time. There's very little here that I've spent money on. I have 2 tragic heroes. That's it, and I've got no interest in buying another 2. So I would have to tweak the deck for that. But yeah, for the most part, and most of this I've got now.
Yeah,
it would be tricky. Yeah,
I do have to give a shout before we move on to the French tournament. Rob Serpy, who we mentioned in the 1K, did a phenomenal job at SCG Philadelphia, because he took first place in the 1K on Friday.
Yeah.
And the 5K on Saturday, he took second place.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, he took top 8. And he's with Team the Forbidden Mountain, and also the Forbidden Mountain team. 3 of their players made top 4 in the 5K. They were all the Ruby Amethyst people. So I have to give a shout to those guys, because they did.
George,
I mean, that's
Rob,
just
and Dave.
A great
awesome. And is that, like, are we looking at the same deck basically? Is that
yes?
That's the deck they've put together as a team, so I think.
Yeah, I did notice this when looking at it earlier today. Rob's deck is different on Friday than it is all the other days, but only by 1 card. And the other days, him and the rest of his team ran 1 copy of Dragonfire. On Friday, Rob played 4 Madame Medusas and dropped the Dragonfire instead of playing 3 Medusas and 1 Dragonfire. But other than that, they all played the same Ruby Amethyst list, and
just realized they needed that one possible chance of occasionally being able to get rid of just something a little bit chunkier. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool to see.
And shows you that it's something we should maybe do a show on at some point. It's not something I'm super knowledgeable on, but the idea of teams, like the idea of these, it's something we should, because I think it's probably something that a lot of people maybe don't even know exist, and it'd be interesting to talk about that and sort of show the strength of them, where you can if you get a group of people that are genuinely working together, as for the greater good, to sort of help push up into so one of you gets all the way kind of thing. I think it's a really really awesome thing. So so good job to the Forbidden Mountain guys and Rob especially. So it's awesome. They didn't travel to France though, so we don't see their names here.
No.
Illuminoir. Mon cher mademoiselle, this is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure, and we welcome you tonight. 247 players this had. That's like that's like everyone in France, I think.
That was all of France. That was everybody that plays Lorcana in France.
So I love how deck 1 is called Zoo. I don't think it's a Zoo deck, is it?
No, it's a bounce control deck. It's definitely not a Zoo.
Don't lie to us, Reclaim. Standard stuff there. Okay, nothing really to talk about, I don't think.
2 whales. 2 Maui whales.
2 whales. Oh yeah, 2. Look at that. 2 whales.
So that's kind of fun. Otherwise, nothing.
Otherwise,
really
all pretty standard stuff. And what does it's Ruby?
Mufasa. Turn 2.
So Ruby Amethyst only takes 2 of the top 8. So that's that's pretty. I'm fine with that. It can always take 2.
247 player tournament. Like, that is ginormous. It's awesome to see such a spread.
Everything in France closed for the day, so people can play Mufasa. People can play Lorcana. So Mufasa, I really tried with Mufasa during set 2. I just never gelled with it. Like in locals, it was fun to see, random, but the little competitive itch kept saying it's not consistent enough. It's not consistent enough, and I just that's kind of how I felt. So
I didn't play it much in set 2 because I kind of didn't. It felt a little gimmicky to me in set 2, to be honest. I feel like now nothing's really changed. I've just come across to it. And I played Amber Ruby a little bit at the beginning of Into the Inklands, mainly trying to test Perdita, but that also kind of lends yourself to like leaning into a Mufasa deck if Perdita doesn't really work out. Lorcana, if she's in the chat still, she I know she plays Amber, Ruby, primarily Mufasa, and she shares a couple of lists, and I've played some of her lists, and they're very fun. They're very good.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit surprised to see it top a tournament this big, but I guess that shows how consistent it can be. I think the hydras that are in this deck is pretty interesting, and I wonder if whether or not it's a like an MVP for the deck, because it's not a card that I see too many people actually playing, but I can see specifically in a Mufasa deck where your removal is primarily your characters.
It's character based, yeah. It's you know, Eric and Maui, Maleficent.
Yeah,
because you just can't risk not running characters really. I mean, this is running a
right.
play set of teeth, but I don't know. I look at this list and I think Mufasa could be pretty much anything else, and the deck is still good.
That's where I'm at with the list so far. I haven't played it in a couple weeks, but the last time I touched it, I was like, this deck feels fine. It feels like Mufasa's holding it back. Like if I could drop the Mufasas, play some better songs and actions, and like a couple better characters.
Well, that's it, yeah, because you're having to lose. Heck, I'd drop Mufasa and put 4 bare necessities in this.
Yeah, like seeing bare necessities not in this feels kind of weird. There's so many good Ruby and Amber cards now, especially songs and items, that it does make me wonder if people just haven't played with it yet, because it's not one of those like top tier decks that everybody's playing with, but has a lot of potential.
Mufasa. He's bad and should feel bad. I mean, I think Mufasa came along when people were just desperate for something that wasn't Ruby.
Along came Mufasa.
When people were just desperate to see something else. We have our first Ruby Sapphire here in top 4. This is a messy deck.
Hey-Hays. I forgot. People are teching Hey-Hays, which I think is so fun.
Hey.
The 2-drop that loses a lore when it moves to location. Your opponent loses a lore when you move to a location.
Yeah, so location-wise, we're just looking at 3 copies of Monster Nui, 4 of the mana, which seems a low count for the 2 Hawkins in there, but I mean, I guess it's
2 Hawkins and Hey-Hays that care about locations.
Yeah.
Low.
But otherwise, I don't know about this deck. I haven't really played this, tested it. It just looks like a whole mess of cards.
It looks to. Admittedly, I haven't played this color pairing specifically, but I've played against it a lot. And I know that it can really struggle against more aggressive early decks. And it looks like this one has a pretty good like game plan against that.
Yeah, I mean the queens and the stitches are there purely for
that,
right? Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of that in some of these decks. Like in there was one in one of the other tournaments that we didn't look at that was running like 4 Queen of Hearts, which makes sense, right? Just something to rush characters down with. But to play 4 Hey-Hays and then 4 other 2-drops, like just for the early game, and you can either play the Hey-Hey and he sits there and can challenge something when it exerts, or later in the game can slow the aggressive person down by losing them lore some. Yeah. I think it's cool. It's nice to see this deck tack a little bit more to the aggressive side, because I think it's a good deck. I think it
handles the late game incredibly very well, right? Really, once you get to 5, I mean, you're running away with it.
And there's so much draw now in the deck with like the talismans and the Flavershams and Tala and Gaston and all of that, that it doesn't struggle to find the answers it needs in the late game when it's looking for it.
Fishbone's the only ramp in this. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, there is something to be said about just a good amount of card draw being ramp. As strange as that sounds, like yes, you're only playing 1 a turn still, but just being able to keep a full hand after you've done that, there is something to be said about the fact that ramp isn't necessarily more ink each turn. It's also just having a nice selection of cards after the ink each turn that kind of help you as well. And Tala Oh no, she still just puts one into your hand, eh?
Yeah, you can look at the top two. She's a develop your brain on a stick.
I suppose Montanui is ramp if stuff dies there.
Oh yeah, that's true. Which it probably is.
Which
probably
again, playing the hearts and the stitch. So probably what you're doing is,
Yeah.
Those hearts and stitches are coming down on 3. Into the 2-drop that they've exerted.
Yeah.
And then the dying and becoming ramp. I guess that's probably the line there. So yeah, that's an interesting line actually. Yeah. Montanui on 2, Stitch on 3, killing whatever their 2-drop was.
Yeah.
And then becoming
all these Sapphire decks, like, it's weird because in Sapphire Steel, I mean, ramping on turn 3 is so critical to that deck's success because you can sing a whole new world after like playing a 5-card or a 5-drop card.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter in this deck because it's not Steel, but it's interesting to see like that 3-turn ramp mark is just so important to like jump to 5.
Yeah, and skipping over a lot of stuff in this deck really, and not necessarily having to hit the 5 for whole new world singing, but just this deck just wants to get to the late game quicker, right? Like it just wants to get to your 5s and 6s.
I mean,
go ahead.
If you're playing Jim Hawkins on turn 4 and dropping a McDuck Manor, like things, like things have changed very quickly.
Yeah. There's very little that deals with mana at that time in the game. Yeah, it's interesting. That was Q. Did that deck anything else here that's worth pointing out?
This is wide. Hold on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different decks in the top 8 of this tournament.
Which is great. Crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Amazing. A couple of so we haven't looked at an Emerald Steel, so we'll take a look at that last one. I think the top 8. Ink decks. If you're watching, what do we have to have all the highest rarities all the time? It makes decks so difficult to read for me.
Yeah, it does.
Just come on. This guy's not running. For 8,
no, they're not
12,
running
16 enchanted, 20 enchanted in this one. I mean, no wonder this is an expensive deck. Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding. $700, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's not $700 even with the enchanteds.
Oh. So
I'd love to know what it was with the enchanteds.
So what? This is just like an Emerald Steel's good stuff, I suppose. Really, it's not necessarily leaning into. It's got Buckies, but it's not really leaning into the discard stuff. It's just playing a ton of Floodborn.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very similar to Zach Bivens' list that he won with in a much smaller tournament, but like this deck generally does the same things. And honestly, the deck looks about like what I probably would have changed with the Bivens deck if I were to go into a tournament last weekend. It pulled in some Rise of the Titans and dropped the Beast Relentless.
Yes, yeah.
There's one more.
It's a goofy card that occasionally will pay off, but I don't think you build a deck around it.
But that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's the Bucky morph line with Ursula and the removal to like deal a ton of damage, singing damage songs with Ursula and discarding your opponent's hand with Bucky's and Floodborn characters.
Yeah.
Or singing a whole new world early if you want to.
Just ditch the whole deck,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still really surprised to see the 3/4 Jafar, the Shift Jafar. I mean, I get it's a nice cheap Floodborn, but I always felt because I played a deck similar to this in set 2, leaned way more into the discard. Buckies and Prince Johns and Lucifers and stuff, but still ran all of these Floodborn hits. And I always felt Jafar was the placeholder. I always felt like he was the one that was most likely coming out. But I just guess there's nothing else in that 4 slot that's doing the job. I mean, that Timothy just mentioned there, Bogo. Like, I feel like I wonder whether Bogo would be the 4-drop in this.
I think there's too many uninkables to.
Is he uninkable? Is he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've never disliked the Floodborn Jafar specifically in a Bucky deck because like sometimes you're not going to hit the early shift Beast or Robin Hood or Tinkerbell or whatever.
So he's as early as you're going to get a Floodborn out, right?
He's as early as you're going to get a quality Floodborn out in these colors, and he's pretty good for a mid-game character because like you play him and now your opponent kind of they know what you're doing as soon as you play some Buckies or whatever, and so now they have to go, okay, like if I quest with my characters, they likely get to draw a card, or they get to remove it or whatever. Like Jafar to me has always been a card that I play, and it just kind of stops my opponent from doing whatever they're doing on board unless they can remove him.
Yeah, most
and
likely will kill a thing. Yeah,
I think in a deck like this, that's very good because like that's all you want to do is just make them wait till turn 5 or 6 after you can get a couple buckies down and just discard everything and then take over the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never hated him.
Yeah.
But he is like, I wouldn't say he's a phenomenal card, but I don't think he's a bad card.
No, that's fair. No, it's not that I've never disliked him. It was always when like I say, I played a deck very similar to this in set 2 and had a lot of fun with it. But I always kept thinking, I wonder what set 3 card replaces Jafar. And I wouldn't have thought that Kit Cloud Clicker replaced Prince John, but did quite comfortably, really, in that sort of same slot.
I think people realize that if the only way this deck works is if you lean really heavily into the Buckies and just like drop the Prince Johns, because you have other ways of drawing cards now with Robin Hood and Beast and Jafar. I just found Prince John was way too slow to set up, and you couldn't discard your opponent's stuff.
That was the biggest thing. Was it's just a huge tempo shift for doing nothing else on turn 3. And the other thing I found was that if this deck really did what it wanted to do and it emptied your opponent's hand, your Bucky becomes useless. And when you're playing Bucky and Prince John, they both become useless, really. You're just putting more stuff out that's like, if this deck does really good, these 2 cards don't do anything anymore. So,
and I'd argue Prince John is more useless than Bucky in that scenario, because at the very least, like if your opponent's drawing cards on your turn because you're challenging and banishing stuff, you can then make them discard those cards, which is more important than drawing cards off of them at that point.
Yeah, But yeah, there we go. I think that's a good weekend of tournament stuff. Lots of different stuff. Yeah. Obviously, Ruby Amethyst doing well. I hope it settles into doing good, and
I hope we see just as much success with other decks as we do Ruby Amethyst. Exactly. Like if the French tournament results reflected every other tournament for this set, I'd be the happiest person ever. That would be amazing.
I'd be very happy with that. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's all I put on the notes. That's all I have to talk about.
What does this week in ink look like for you, Brandon?
Ooh, this week in ink is pretty busy actually. Tomorrow I'll go to League for another starter deck week thing. We'll open 2 packs for our starter deck and do that. So that'll be fun. Then Wednesday and Thursday I'll be casting some games for the Glimmer Gauntlet that we've mentioned before. That they're pre-recorded, so they won't come out till probably next week, maybe. I don't remember what the timeline is for when those are going to come out, but I'll be commentating 2 of those because the round 1 of the Glimmer Gauntlet is concluded. I can't give any spoilers, but you guys should.
So these are round 2 games you're recording.
No. These are round 1 games I'm recording, but like they've already played.
So the games happened. You're doing the recording, and then we'll see. I see. I understand. Yeah.
So be sure to check out Glimmer Gang for that. It's a charity event. Donate. I think it's going to be really fun. But I'm doing that Wednesday and Thursday, so that's going to be pretty full of Lorcana throughout the week. But that's pretty much it. What about you?
Yeah. No, not much really. Honestly, tomorrow I will probably get a few games in, and then Saturday we're running a tournament at the store, so just a winner box tournament. But that should be a nice little turnout, and it'll be good to see everyone's set 3 decks. It'll be the first competitive thing we've done with set 3. I was going to say, Stephen there said, I really appreciate a different perspective is what made the casual competitive so honest and raw. Yes, I'm very glad that we can chat. I think for the most part tonight we kind of agree with each other, but it's it's as far as the game's concerned, we're usually pretty much on the same page. Although occasionally Brandon will tell me why I'm wrong about a card evaluation, but that's fine.
Hey, Jonti is sometimes right.
Sometimes right. It's going to go on my gravestone. There we go. But yeah, no, otherwise just cracking on, and hopefully we see some new stuff. There's a chance of set 4 news coming. Like, it wasn't that long after set 3. It wasn't set 3 news wasn't that long after set 2's big box launch. So yeah.
I forgot about that, but you're right. We could see that this week.
We could see that this week, or more likely next, I imagine. But at some point, it's got to happen, right? So, and who knows? We may also get full rules or judge program or something. But I'm sure whatever it is, we'll be here to talk about it next Monday. So,
yeah.
Thanks for watching. You can, Brandon, you're on your channel.
Yeah, find me on B224 and socials at B224, capital Y, capital T.
There you go, and I'm here. Thank you so much for watching. Until next week in Ink.
That was This Week in Ink.